now. We have CNN political commentator LZ Granderson and Congresswoman Karen Bass. She's also a member of the Congressional Black Caucus. Thanks to both of you for being here with us. LZ, I'll start with you. When you look at it, the issues are so entrenched. They are not new, and that's why we're seeing them echoed across the country. What do we do here? The grand jury has spoken. The prosecutor could still bring charges, probably won't. Where do we go?
I think the focus should now turn to the fact that there's such a lack of transparency in both what happened with the grand jury, but also what happened with the police officer, Michael Brown. There's been a huge push, and I support this push, to put body cameras on police officers so that we can get rid of some of this, cloudiness about what actually occurred, and we have it documented on video. And also it's important that we change the law so that these body cameras are required to be on at all times. Right now, if you have a body camera, police officers can turn it on at their discretion. We need to eliminate that part of it and make it required like a badge.
Because we thought this was going to happen with dash cameras, and some don't have them, like, exactly. This car didn't have it, wasn't on, whatever. Nick?
Again, Congresswoman Karen Bass is joining us from Los Angeles, Chris, because I think this is a really important conversation to have with you, Congresswoman. You've been a huge advocate for our young people, and I think this is specifically a question when you hear so many people in the black community and our young people really frustrated with the outcome of this case, feeling justice wasn't served and the value of the African-American men in America is in question. How do we address that? What's the first step we need to take to shift that?
Well, I absolutely think it begins with dialogue, but I just have to tell you that my heart goes out to the Brown family as they prepare for Thanksgiving without their son. And I think that we have to do a short-term and a long-term strategy, and we really need to begin to come to grips with this in our country, because you can go down a long list of these cases, and you know that there have been many in recent time, and there was a 12-year-old child that was killed just a few days ago in New York. I believe he had a toy gun. So you can rattle off these instances, and one of the most important things that I think people need to do who are not African American, who are not Latino, is need to just take a deep breath for 1 minute and say, maybe I don't understand. Maybe there's something going on here that I need to look at, because all of the polling shows the sharp divide. Latinos, African Americans see the world one way, non-Latino and African Americans see the world another way. But we need a long-term strategy. In Ferguson, they most definitely need to diversify the leadership of that city, the police department, the city council, and so we need to look at things both in the short term and the long term.
All right, we have a lot of social media that has reacted, obviously, to this story. Let me read you just a sampling of a couple that have come in. Alicia Gaetano says, it isn't just talking to your kids about how to dress. How about talking to them about abiding by the law? And then Michelle B. Bolden writes, how about the media back off? Maybe your build-up of this horrible mess could have been avoided. The coverage and the cameras have created a monster. Yes, Congresswoman, what's your reaction?
Well, I want to say something about abiding by the law, because, the officer talked about how he saw the cigarettes or whatever that Michael Brown had taken. Since when do we not have trials? Since when do we execute people? I mean, the way that the information was leaked from day one of this case, and intentionally leaking the information about the video, it's terrible if he committed a crime before this happened. But even if he did commit a crime, is a police officer supposed to be the jury and the executioner on the spot? So, it's that kind of mentality that we really need to begin to look at.
All right, let's look at the media part of this one. I got to tell you, I don't feel it. I get criticism from the media. I think people make a mistake seeing the media as a monolith. It isn't. You got to judge every outlet, every journalist on their own merits. But, what do you think the experience is with what happens when something goes wrong and there's nobody there to shine a light on it? You think that usually that increases the chances that the right thing happens?
But, it always depends upon who's upset about what's being covered and what's not being covered. If you think about politics, we both are involved in politics. When the media doesn't cover something in the way that it's supposed to in regards to President Obama, we hear it from one side of the nation. When we cover too much of what looks like in favor of President Obama, we hear it from the other side of the nation. And this is no different. The media's job is not to create monsters, and we don't create monsters. Our job is to show you the monster and allow you, the public, to decide how you want to deal with that monster. Right. Blaming us for exposing something is not going to solve that problem.
And, we're always talking about political correctness. It seems the media is one of the last places you can go and just bash all you want, all across, all across the range, and it's still okay. But you know what? It's also a little dangerous because it's one of the best freedoms we have here, guys.
Absolutely. The forefathers fought for that and made it a part of the Constitution like everything else. And the Second Amendment right, you have a right to this free press as well.
Well, you know
Ladies?
what, also, if you think about the civil rights movement, if you think about the Rodney King beating, if it wasn't for the media showing those images to the world, it's no telling how much longer these situations would go on. So we absolutely need that exposure. That has to happen.
Great conversation. I think this is an important one to be had, and we hope there are many more of these. Elsie Granderson, Representative Karen Bass, and of course, our very own Chris Cuomo. We always appreciate from hearing